Hello ladies, gentlemen, and those of unspecified gender. I present to you a nicely framed shot of me in shorts. No, but in all seriousness, I'm going to be cooking something because I'm kind of hungry right now. What we're going to be making today is a variation of chipped beef on a shingle, otherwise known as shit on a shingle, according to my veteran grandpa. And I have a little bit of bacon fat in here, and I'm just melting that in a cast iron pan. Keen-eye viewers will notice that I have two metal tools right there, within proximity of cast iron. Yeah, they're not touching, it doesn't matter. Next we're going to take half an onion, we're just going to cut it up into, I don't know, medium-sized chunks. This is the type of recipe that you can pretty much just fumble your way through and you'll get something that is basically the ideal end product. As for why I decided to cook this, well, it's because it's a nice simple meal that took me, I think realistically, like 30 minutes to actually cook, and that's only because I had to do stuff like this, which is fumble around with the camera. So, now that the bacon fat's all melted, we got the onions and we're just throwing them in there, and we don't really want them to, like, brown per se. It's mostly just trying to get them to sweat a little bit and just kind of get them evenly cooked all around. They are going to brown a little bit because, like I said, I'm fumbling around with the camera, and they're just going to kind of overcook a little bit, but, like, that's not really a thing you can do with this recipe. You can tell I have things precisely planned out because I am constantly futzing around with the camera here. So this recipe normally calls for beef, chipped beef specifically, but I don't really have that. Instead I have some leftover smoked ham that I'm just going to cut up into very small pieces. Not bite-sized, but well, smaller than bite-sized. The type of protein doesn't actually matter so long as it's there. You could do this recipe with ground chicken, ground beef, pulled pork, stuff like that. It's really supposed to be a thing that covers all of your bases so that you have a nice foundation meal to start the rest of your day with, or end your day with. This step here is just the making of a basic gravy, roux flour gravy. So added a little bit of water just so there's liquid in the pan when I'm going to add the flour here. That'll just help it dissolve and not actually like form two big clumps. So sprinkled on some flour here, and this is just a rinse and repeat step of just add a little bit of water, add a little bit of flour, just until you get a nice base for a gravy. I would say once you have that foundation done, you basically cook until it's to the thickness you want, or until the raw flour smell or taste is gone. Now we're on to the seasoning part, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to want to use more seasoning than you actually think is necessary. People under-season stuff a lot, and I actually don't know how, because you taste it, and then if it's not salty enough, you add more salt, and it needs a little pepper, you add pepper. I don't mean to sound so condescending, but yeah, it's basically just season it to the point in which it tastes good, and it actually tastes like something, and then you're golden. The rule I follow when it comes to dishes with sauces like this one is if the sauce on its own is too salty, that's perfect because it's going to taste less salty when you actually use it for whatever you're cooking with. So if it's going to salt the ham, it's going to salt the onions, and it'll salt whatever else it touches. Alright, once everything is starting to taste good, now we're on to plating. Normally this type of thing would be served on toast, but I'm just using bread right now because I didn't want to fish out the toaster. And you kind of can't see here because my framing is terrible, but I have a hard-boiled egg right next to it and some roasted cabbage in the background for extra fiber. And I'm going to chase it down with a glass of Powerade. This is not a fancy meal by any means, but this is just something to fill your stomach that tastes relatively okay. And that is how you make Gulpnik mash. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you decide to make it, great, good for you. But if you decide not to, I understand. For now, I'm gonna go eat, and after that I'm gonna figure out why I suddenly have a cooking show.